Hello darlings, thank you for tuning in to my first gouache video ever. I am using these two beautiful gouache sets from Arteza, and by the way, you can check out the video description for links to purchase the art supplies featured in today's video, as well as a special 10% off discount code from Arteza. The first gouache set contains all 60 colors that Arteza produces, but since I'm just getting started, I am only going to be using a handful of colors to keep things more simple. The second set features 12 metallic gouache colors, which add a magical shimmer to your piece, and I'm going to be using 2 of them as accents for my painting. I'm mainly sticking to 4 shades of pinks, blue, and purple, along with black and white. Also, if you want to see a more comprehensive 30-minute tutorial where I walk you through the step-by-step process in creating this painting, including some useful hacks in the preparation stage, please check out my Patreon page. For just a few dollars a month, you can get instant access to this tutorial, plus hundreds of hours of exclusive Patreon content and many more fun rewards, all at patreon.com/happydartist. Okay, on to the painting time-lapse portion of the video. I just wanted to say right off the bat that I had a blast making this piece and using gouache for the first time. It is such a fun medium. I think it's very versatile and it combines my favorite elements of watercolors, acrylics, and oils. But I just wanted to, throw a little disclaimer out there that while this is my first complete piece of artwork in gouache, it's not the first time I've ever touched the medium. The first time I technically, dipped my brush in water, loaded it with gouache paint, and applied brushstrokes onto a piece of paper was during last month's Patreon live stream. Initially, I just thought it'd be a fun idea to share my first moments ever touching this brand new medium with my patrons live. And ultimately, the little sketch I did of the bumblebee just turned out looking quite unfinished, and I guess it was more of like a fun exercise rather than a serious piece of artwork or a representation of my best work, because the main purpose of trying out gouache in the live stream was just to kind of get my feet wet, get acclimated to the medium, have fun and play around. And I wasn't so much focused on honing my skills or trying to create a well thought out, complete piece of artwork. So the process in creating this current painting was definitely a completely different experience than just my first time playing around with the medium. With this piece, I definitely tried very hard to focus on picking up as many gouache skills as I could, paying close attention to how it's similar to the mediums that I'm used to and also how it behaves differently so that I can kind of recalibrate my muscle memory and my painting habits to better fit the gouache medium and its unique set of character traits. And I gotta say, gouache has definitely made a very strong, positive first impression. I think overall my favorite medium is still oils. That's just my first love. It's my go-to. I don't think anything will replace oils in my heart, but gouache is a very close second. And I think being able to make that statement after just creating one, real painting and one quick little sketch study exercise says a lot about just how versatile and fun this medium can be. And prior to trying out gouache, I was doing a little bit of reading and watched a few YouTube tutorials just to get myself mentally prepped. And a common sentiment that I saw throughout all the tutorials I read and watched was that gouache behaves like a hybrid of watercolors and acrylic. And I guess just reading that or seeing it, I didn't really know what it meant until I actually tried it with my bare hands. And I definitely agree. I think gouache combines the best qualities of watercolors and acrylics, and even a little bit of oils. So some similar traits between gouache and watercolors that I love is that you don't have to constantly remix your colors. Even though the paint blobs on your palette might dry pretty quickly, as long as you use water, you can reactivate that paint. So if you have a wet brush and you scrub it over the dried up paint, you can still load your brush with that color and reuse it. With acrylics, you don't have that luxury. Once the paint is dry, then it's going to be dry forever. But on the flip side, because acrylics stay dry, you can very safely and confidently build layers because you know that the bottom layers will not get reactivated and the colors won't end up accidentally mixing together or muddying together when you add a new layer or apply paint on top of an area that's already been painted. So I definitely had to pay attention to this small caveat and paint very carefully, especially when my brush was wet. I realized that I have to constantly make sure to wipe my brush off on a paper towel so that I didn't accidentally introduce too much water into my piece, because it would always end up with the colors accidentally muddying together in a way that I did not plan for and did not want. But besides that one small tiny flaw, I still feel like gouache was such an easier transition from oils than watercolors were. I think because I had primarily used only oil paints for so long, I built most of my techniques and skills and painting habits around the oil paint medium. So transitioning to watercolors was extremely challenging, mainly because I couldn't use white to paint lighter values, and I instead had to rely on the white of my paper. So if I wanted an area to be lighter, instead of building layers with lighter colors, I would just have to paint less over that area and let more of the paper white show through. And to me, it was so hard. It's still very hard to wrap my head around, and it's where I make most mistakes when it comes to watercolor painting. So for me, gouache was like visiting an old friend. Because for the most part, the way I painted with oils was very similar to the way I painted with gouache. I was able to paint lighter colors on top of darker colors. I didn't have to leave any part of my paper empty, and I could rely on a very opaque patch of white for, the dramatic highlights, the fish scales, the stars. And in addition, because of the fast drying time, I think gouache is a lot more travel friendly. So your palette and your artwork will dry within the span of a few hours, and it's very easy to transport your pieces in a suitcase or a luggage. Unlike oils, where you have to make sure nothing touches the painting because the painting will take a few weeks to dry. So unless you're traveling for a long time, oils are not the easiest medium to paint with on the go. And that's where having gouache is definitely a plus. But I guess the last thing that I had a little bit of trouble with in terms of painting with gouache is the paint dry very matte, so all the colors kind of flatten and you don't get that deep luminous dark that you do with oil paints. And the colors in gouache change a little bit as they're drying as well, so it was hard for me to predict what the final piece will look like, because it does look slightly different from when I first applied the paint. So I definitely had troubles with painting, for example, the very dark purple background layer of clouds. It just always looked too light or too flat, and the transition between the dark black night sky and the slightly translucent purple cloud layer was just very hard to nail with gouache, and it was something that I definitely missed with oils, those very deep and rich luminous colors. But overall, gouache is super fun. There's pros and cons to every medium, and I'm very happy that I get to explore all different kinds of mediums and hopefully share with you guys. And if anyone else out there watching is just starting out with gouache as well, I hope this video gives you a little bit of encouragement. And yeah, I'm just very excited. I can't wait to try out this medium some more and see what other pieces I can come up with. Also, the next bit, I know it might seem strange to some people, but I know there are a lot of people out there, myself included, who get so much satisfaction from watching tape being peeled. So I just decided to show you guys some clips of me peeling the tape off of this piece. And once that enjoyable peeling process is done, I just quickly cropped my piece so that it can better fit into its frame. And for the frame, I'm using this iridescent purplish acrylic paint to basically just garnish the frame with some interesting highlights and to give the whole piece a more custom feel. Like, I want the frame to feel like it was custom painted for the painting inside. And I think the iridescent purple color actually complements the color palette of the fish painting very well. And now both the painting and the frame have a magical little sparkle. And that about wraps up today's video. I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to sit here and watch me paint and listen to me ramble. And I've listed the framed original painting as well as prints in my shop, so if you're interested in adopting either one, you can check out happyd-artist.com. Also, if you want to check out more artworks, works in progress, and just random daily artist adventures, feel free to check out my Instagram, and you can follow me at the handle @happydartist. And if you're interested in learning more about how to paint and draw, I have lots of art educational content on my Patreon page, including exclusive video tutorials, step-by-step photo tutorials, live streams, podcasts, and so much more, all available at patreon.com/happydartist. I'd love to have you join my Patreon family. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!